we mean by this word distraction. I'm a big buff in terms of etymology and words. Like words really, really matter. So we have to be careful on how we use them. So what does it mean when we say we get distracted? Well, the best way to understand what distraction is to understand what distraction is not. So what is the opposite of distraction? The opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. If you look at the etymology of the words, in fact, both traction and distraction come from the same Latin root, trahare, which means to pull, and they both end in the same 6 letters, action, A-C-T-I-O-N. So traction is any action that pulls you towards what you want to do, things that you do with intent. The opposite of traction is distraction, anything that moves you away, that pulls you away from what you plan to do, anything that you are not doing with intent. So this is really important for 2 reasons. One, on the traction side, it reminds us that anything can be traction. That if you want to play video games, if you want to meditate, if you want to paint, if you want to pray, if you want to take a walk, if you want to watch football, no problem. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. And this is why I hate this bullshit idea that, that you on Facebook or you on Candy Crush, that's somehow morally inferior. That's like a waste. But, me watching football on TV, that's somehow okay. No, anything you do with intent, anything that you plan to do, look, the time you plan to waste is not wasted time. Yeah. So as long as it's done according to your values and according to your schedule, it's traction, no problem. Now, this also reminds us on the other side of distraction, just like anything can become traction as long as you plan for it, anything can be a distraction as long as if it is not something you plan to do with intent. So for example, this would get me all the time. I'd sit down at my desk and I'd say, okay, now I'm going to do that project I've been putting off. I'm going to do that writing. I'm going to do that big presentation that I have been procrastinating. I'm finally going to do it. Okay, now I'm going to do it. Right after I check email, right after I scroll that Slack channel, right after I just talk to my colleague real quick about that one thing that I wanted to chat with him about. Anything that is not what you plan to do with intent is distraction. Right. And so this is what we call pseudo work. It's when you think you're getting something done. I got to do those emails eventually, right? So that's productive, isn't it? No. If it's not what you plan to do with your time, it is pseudo work, because if you don't differentiate between traction and distraction, you're constantly reacting all day long and you have no time for reflection, which means that you're only responding to the urgent, but you're not taking care of the important. I'm sure everyone's seen the Eisenhower matrix of urgent and important. Yep. Well, everybody knows we should do the stuff that's urgent and important, but many people forget we should also do the stuff that's important, but not urgent. And that's the stuff that constantly gets pushed aside, is the stuff we have to spend time on, right? The strategizing, the thinking, for God's sakes. Who has time for thinking these days? The people who are winners, right? The people who are doing great in life. Those are the people who make time for reflection as opposed to constantly reacting. So we got traction, we got distraction, okay, on either sides. Now the question is, what moves us towards traction or distraction? And to answer this question that Plato posed around why do we do things against our better interest, we have to back up a step and ask ourselves, really, why do we do anything, right? Really first principle stuff. Why do we do anything? Most people will tell you that the seat of human motivation is about the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. This is called Freud's pleasure principle. But it turns out, neurologically speaking, what's going on in the brain is not about the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. In fact, the reason we do everything and anything is for one reason only, and that is to avoid discomfort. Everything we do, even the pursuit of pleasurable sensations, wanting, craving, desire, there's a reason we say love hurts, because neurologically speaking, that is exactly what's going on. So we know this to be physiologically true, right? If we think about it in our bodies, if we go outside and it's cold, we don't feel comfortable when it's cold, we put on a jacket. If we go back inside, now it's hot, we take it off. If we feel hunger pangs, we eat. And when we're too full, oh, we ate too much, that doesn't feel good, we feel stuffed, we stop eating. So physiologically, this is certainly true. We all can agree on that, right? The body makes us feel discomfort to get us to do something. Same holds true psychologically. So when you are lonely, you check Facebook. When you are uncertain, you Google. When you're bored, you check ESPN, stock prices, sports scores, the news, right? Pinterest, Reddit, YouTube. All of these things cater to these uncomfortable internal triggers, these uncomfortable emotional states. So what that means is, if we agree that all behavior is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort, and psychologists have actually confirmed this neurologically, where they will turn off in a lab rat's brain, they will turn off what's called the liking system, the pleasure response, but not the wanting system. They're actually two distinct systems, and they can get rats to keep doing a behavior even if they don't like it. Okay. So all that's required is that we want, not like. We can go into the neuroscience a little more, but this is a super important point. So if we agree that all behavior is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort, that means that time management is pain management. So it doesn't matter what gurus, techniques, or what life hack you've heard that's the latest, technique du jour. Fundamentally, if we don't deal with this fact that all distraction is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort and deal with that fact first and master those internal triggers, we will always get distracted by something. I mean, do we honestly think if Zuckerberg turned off Facebook, or if the iPhone suddenly disappeared, that people would just start reading Shakespeare and Chaucer in their spare time? Right. Of course not. We would constantly get distracted, just as people have always been distracted by something, right? The TV, the radio, gossip, sports, lots of things can distract you. And so if you don't understand why you're getting distracted, if you don't understand why, in my case, I was with my daughter, and we had this beautiful moment together, and we had this activity book of things that daddies and daughters could do together. And one of the activities in the book was to ask each other this question: if you could have any superpower, what superpower would you want? And I remember the question verbatim, but I don't remember what she said, because in that moment I was distracted. And I wish I could blame the phone. I really want to blame the phone. I really want to blame, it's you, Facebook, it's you, iPhone, it's you, email. But the fact is, I was looking to escape something, right? I'd had too much time with my toddler. I was stressed out about what was going on with work. I wasn't dealing with why I was escaping. And whether, if you don't deal with that fact, just like an alcoholic blaming the bottle, or whatever it might be, blaming porn, blaming Facebook, blaming whatever, if we don't deal why we're looking for that stuff, we will always be distracted by something. So that's the root cause.